There is a moment many survivors of narcissistic abuse remember, even if they have never put it into words. You're doing something completely ordinary, like ordering coffee or asking a simple question in a meeting. The request is small, harmless, reasonable, but your body reacts as if you were about to start a war. Your heart races, your throat tightens, your voice comes out too soft, too apologetic, or not at all. And afterwards, you walk away wondering, why was that so hard? What is wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you. What you are feeling is not a personality flaw or shyness problem. It is the echo of a nervous system that spent years learning one brutal lesson. When I speak, I am not safe. When I ask for something, when I disagree, when I take up space, something bad happens. If you grew up in a narcissistic family or loved a narcissistic partner, you were not just taught to doubt your thoughts. You were trained to mistrust your own voice. You were punished for the sound of your truth and rewarded for the sound of your compliance. Somewhere along the way, your body decided, if my voice disappears, maybe I will finally be safe. In this video, I want to speak to that part of you. The one who whispers instead of speaks. The one who adds 3 apologies to every sentence. The one who feels a knot in the throat whenever you think about saying no. We're going to explore how narcissistic abuse literally and metaphorically changes your voice and what it actually means to get it back. Because reclaiming your voice is not just about learning to talk louder or being more confident. It is about understanding how your nervous system, your language, and even your sense of self were shaped by an environment where speaking truth was dangerous. And then, step by step, teaching your body that it is allowed to sound like you again. When you live around narcissistic people, you slowly learn that words are not neutral. They are weapons, tests, traps. Maybe as a child you were mocked for asking questions, corrected for how you said something instead of what you meant, or told you were being dramatic whenever you tried to express hurt. Maybe you learned that the safest version of you was the quiet, agreeable one who never made anyone uncomfortable. Every criticism, every eye roll, every explosion over a tiny opinion sends a clear message to your body. Your voice causes trouble. Over time, your system begins to predict danger before you even open your mouth. Your pulse speeds up, your breath becomes shallow, your throat narrows, and without realizing it, you start to edit your sentences in real time to avoid conflict. This is where the people pleaser voice is born. It is not a random habit. It is a survival strategy. You hear it in the way you talk. You start sentences with sorry, I was just wondering if maybe, instead of I'd like to. You shrink your needs with words like just, kind of, maybe, and if that's okay. You laugh after saying something true, so it lands softer. You turn statements into questions, so other people do not feel threatened. You add long explanations to simple requests, as if you're standing on trial for having needs. On the outside, this might look polite, accommodating, easygoing. On the inside, it is a nervous system crouching, hoping it won't be hit. Jung would say that this people-pleaser voice belongs to your persona, the social mask you built in order to be accepted in a hostile system. It is the version of you that learned to sound harmless, so other people could stay comfortable. Meanwhile, your anger, clarity, and directness were pushed into the shadow, exiled to the unconscious, where they live as body tension, dreams, and sudden bursts of emotion you do not fully understand. But narcissistic abuse does not only shape the words you choose. It reshapes the instrument you speak through your body. Think about what happens in your throat when you are afraid to speak. For many survivors, the muscles around the neck and jaw have been on high alert for years. You feel a lump in the throat whenever you want to say something important. Your jaw clenches at night. Your tongue feels heavy. Sometimes you cough, lose your voice, or go blank right when you are about to say, no, I don't like that, or that hurt me. From a trauma perspective, this is not random. Your body is trying to protect you the only way it knows how. It learned, if we shut down the voice, maybe we avoid the explosion. If we make it hard to speak, maybe we avoid the punishment. Muscles that should be relaxed enough to carry sound become like a clenched fist, holding words back because the old environment taught them that silence equals survival. Posture joins in too. Your shoulders roll forward. Your chest collapses. Your head tilts down slightly when you talk. You may not notice, but your body is sending a constant message. I am small. I'm not a threat. Please do not attack me. The tragedy is that you might still be doing this long after the threat is gone. And this is where Jung's work around the self becomes powerful. In narcissistic systems, you are pressured into one narrow role. The good child, the easy partner, the grateful one who never complains. That role comes with a voice template. You are expected to sound agreeable, grateful, flexible, and above all, non-confrontational. Every time you swallow the truth to keep the peace, you are not only protecting the relationship, you are sacrificing a piece of yourself. Maybe you have had dreams where you try to scream and no sound comes out, or where your mouth is full of sand or your jaw is glued shut. Symbolically, those dreams are the psyche's way of saying, there is something in you that has not been allowed to speak. Losing your voice is not just a communication problem. It is a spiritual wound. It is the feeling of having your own center muted so that the family myth or the narcissist's ego can stay intact. So the question becomes, how do you get your voice back without re-traumatizing yourself? How do you move from a silence persona back toward a self that can speak clearly, even if the voice still shakes? The first stage is not glamorous, but it is essential. Safety before sound. You cannot bully your nervous system into having a strong voice. If your body still believes that speaking is dangerous, no amount of positive affirmations will override that. So instead of shaming yourself for being quiet, you start by getting curious. You notice when your throat tightens. Is it with certain people, certain topics, certain tones of voice? You might keep a small note in your phone with 2 simple lines. What I wanted to say and what I actually said. Not to judge yourself, but to gently reveal the gap between your inner truth and your outer voice. Alongside that awareness, you begin to work directly with the body in small, kind ways. You place one hand on your chest and one on your throat, and you practice slow exhalations, letting your out-breath be a little longer than your in-breath, telling your nervous system, we are not in danger right now. You hum softly with your lips closed, feeling the vibration in your throat and chest, letting sound live in your body without meaning or risk. You yawn, stretch your neck, gently massage your jaw. These are not silly tricks. They are ways of telling the muscles around your voice, you do not have to guard me. So maybe at first, the only place you can speak truthfully is alone. You might look in a mirror and practice saying, no, or I don't agree, or that hurt me, just to hear the words in your own voice. You might record a voice note where you say everything you never got to say to someone who silenced you. You do not send it. You simply let your body feel what it is like to let those sentences exist. This is somatic reparenting. You're becoming the adult who does what the old environment never did, protects your right to exist in sound. Once your body has begun to feel a little safer, you can move into the next stage, rewriting your language from apology to honesty. This does not mean you stop being kind. It means kindness is no longer built on self-erasure. You start with small swaps. Instead of, sorry to bother you, I was just wondering if maybe you had time. You try, do you have a minute to talk? Instead of, it's probably stupid, but I was thinking, you say, here's what I'm thinking. Instead of, I don't know, whatever you want, you experiment with, I prefer this. At first, these sentences might feel wrong in your mouth, almost rude. That is because your internal scale is still upside down. You were trained to believe that self-erasure is kindness and clarity is aggression. So when you begin to sound like a real person instead of a permanent apology, your nervous system flares. You may shake, blush, feel your heart pounding, or want to cry after the smallest boundary. That is not proof you're doing something wrong. It is proof that you're healing something old. You can set yourself micro-challenges. 1 honest sentence per day. 1 moment where you let silence exist after you say what you think, instead of rushing to soften it. 1 no, without a long essay attached. Afterward, instead of attacking yourself, you offer the kind of word you never heard. Of course that was hard. Of course my body panicked. I spent years being punished for this. From a Jungian perspective, every clear sentence you speak is a step in individuation. You're moving from a role into a real, living self. And that process is always uncomfortable because it threatens the old system where you were only loved for disappearing. The third stage of reclaiming your voice is speaking as your new self, not just about small preferences, but about boundaries and truth. This is where many survivors get scared because it can mean changing relationships, not just phrases. Finding your voice again does not mean you start shouting or dominating. It means your sound and your truth finally match. You learn to say things like, "I'm not comfortable with that," or "If you raise your voice, I'm going to end this call," or "I don't want to talk about that topic right now." You stop explaining your boundaries as if you were asking for permission, and you start stating them as facts about how you live. Your old pattern might whisper, "If I speak like this, they will leave." And sometimes, yes, people who only loved your silence do pull away from your sound. But here is the deeper truth. When your loyalty to your own soul becomes stronger than your fear of abandonment, your voice begins to stabilize. You stop needing everyone to like your truth in order to keep telling it. You do not start this stage with the most dangerous person in your life. You practice with people in contexts where the risk is lower. You say a clear sentence to a kind friend. You advocate for yourself with a doctor or a coworker or a stranger in a store. Every time you're not punished for using your voice, your nervous system updates its script. Maybe it is not 1989 in that living room anymore. Maybe we are here, now, and I'm allowed to exist. Over time, something subtle shifts. Your tone grows steadier. Your sentences get shorter and cleaner. The nervous laugh fades. Your throat opens more easily. You notice that your body no longer braces before every word. You might still get anxious in certain situations, but the old total shutdown is no longer your only option. And then one day, it happens almost quietly. You're back at that coffee shop, or in that meeting, or on that phone call with someone who used to terrify you. You feel your heart beat a little faster, but your feet stay on the ground. You hear yourself say, "Actually, that doesn't work for me," or "I like something different," and you realize afterwards that you did not apologize even once. You hear your own voice, and for a moment, it surprises you. It sounds a bit stronger, a bit clearer, a bit more like the person you always were underneath the fear. That is not vanity. That is yourself returning from exile. Finding your voice after narcissistic abuse is not a quick mindset shift. It is a slow homecoming. The persona you built to survive will still try to drag you back into soft tones and endless apologies. The old shadows of fear and guilt will still whisper that you are selfish, dramatic, too much. But each time you breathe, feel your body, and let one honest sentence out, you're choosing a different fate. You're not trying to become loud, or perfect, or untouchable. You're becoming congruent. Your inner truth and your outer sound are slowly lining up. And that alignment is what your nervous system has been longing for all along. There's also a quieter layer to this work that rarely gets talked about. When you reclaim your voice, your relationship with silence changes too. In narcissistic systems, silence was often a weapon. The cold shoulder, the icy room, the unanswered message. You learn to panic in silence and perform in order to make it go away. As you heal, silence stops being a threat you must fix and becomes a space you can rest in. You might notice that you no longer rush to fill every pause. You allow other people to sit with your boundary without rescuing them from their discomfort. Their sighs, eye rolls, or disappointed tone are not proof that you are wrong. Your work is not to adjust your voice so no one ever feels uncomfortable. Your work is to stay honest and kind while letting other people be responsible for their own reactions. Jung wrote that what we do not bring to consciousness appears as fate. For many survivors, the fate of always being the quiet one, the easy one, the person who never complains is not fate. It is an old pattern waiting to be made conscious. When you hear your own voice and choose not to abandon it, you are interrupting that pattern. You are saying, "This can end with me." Over time, your voice becomes more than sound. When you speak from fear, your body tightens, your tone shrinks, your words scatter. When you speak from truth, even if you're scared, there is a different feeling afterward, a deeper exhale, a sense of standing on solid ground. That feeling is your inner axis returning, the self that was never destroyed by the abuse, only buried under years of self-protection. So the next time you hear yourself apologizing 3 times for a simple request, do not attack yourself. Notice it. Thank the part of you that learned to survive that way. And then, when you can, practice a new sentence. A sentence that belongs not to the scared child or the silenced partner, but to the person you are becoming. Your voice was never actually lost. It was guarding you, hiding, waiting for a world where it would not be punished simply for existing. If you're watching this, it means that somewhere inside, a deeper part of you is ready. Ready not to shout, but to be real. Ready not to perform, but to speak. Your voice is not an accessory. It is the sound of your soul remembering itself. And even if it trembles, it is still yours.